future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Pierre Lindh. This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, an industry-leading content provider of slots, live casino, bingo, and virtual sports. Pragmatic Play excels at creating an immersive, engaging, and mobile-focused experience for players, with over 200 HTML5 games that are available in all currencies, 31 languages, and all major certified markets. Discover more at pragmaticplay.com.
We are back for rapid fire news, Nico. How's it going?
I'm all good. It has been quite a while since we did it last time, but we've been, pretty busy with each and everything, doing the SBC, etc. And I'm thrilled, pumped up.
Yes.
Nice intro.
Yes, me too. Yeah, me too. It's been great to have the conferences back. Obviously, Barcelona taking place last week, IGB Amsterdam this week. The events are back. G2E happening next week, and then of course, IGB Next Valletta is happening in the end of October as well. Nice to be back around people, Nico. What would you say? How was Barcelona for you last week?
Thing is, I missed those events because although our overall industry seems to be pretty small from the people being involved and all the decision makers, the revenue we are thriving and driving is huge. And it was just good seeing the gaming and gambling industry back in person, just doing the fist bumps and, hugging people again, just talking to people in person again. That was awesome. And although you can kind of get along with, working from home, I kind of missed those events to actually speak to people, also speaking off the record, which you usually don't do in a big Zoom call. What about you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I loved it. I mean, it was great to be back around people and nice to meet people for the first time, after having, like yourself, after having all these Zoom calls and Clubhouse chats for a long time. It's just nice to see everyone in person, and I loved it as well. Having a beer with someone together in person is a lot better than sitting digitally. So that was fantastic.
Yeah.
We have a great show today for everyone. There's been a lot of things happening in this wonderful industry that literally never stands still. Everything from the Netherlands taking U-turns, Kindred losing a third of their entire EBITDA on a whim, more or less, to OpenBet being divested. We have bets on shareholder staging a coup to reinstate Pontus Lindvall. I mean, there's a lot to talk about today. But Nico, I'm gonna just leave it over to you to start kind of going through the list here of the movements on the industry one by one, and we'll start zooming in on certain of these topics. What's
Okay,
your
perfect.
analysis here, Nico?
So first of all, of course, we have the breaking news that Hollywood giant Endeavor joins the overall US wagering business by acquiring OpenBet for $1.2 billion, which is a topic we should for sure zoom in and just give it a little bit more insights, especially as you are quite familiar with the UFC owning company of Endeavor. So they signed the deal that the Hollywood-based sports and entertainment group Endeavor will buy OpenBet for a total of $1.2 billion, which will be paid $1 billion in cash and $200 million in Endeavor's New York Stock Exchange Class A stocks to give the full control of OpenBet to Endeavor. As you are quite familiar with the UFC and you are pretty close by heart to the UFC, what's your take on this specific topic?
Yeah, a natural first question when this M&A activity happened was who is Endeavor? It's not necessarily an iGaming brand that are familiar in our industry, but Endeavor is a mega media house based in the US. And as you rightly mentioned, Nico, one of the major assets that Endeavor is holding is the UFC, the fighting organization, which they acquired, I think it's around 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, something along those lines. And we were speculating as to why Endeavor would make this acquisition of OpenBet, the sports betting platform that belonged to Scientific Games previously. And we're speculating here, right? But we were thinking, for the UFC, they are holding Fight Pass, which is kind of the UFC's version of Netflix, if you will, or the UFC's version of DAZN, if you will, which basically hosts a large catalog of previous fights, but they also live stream fights as well. And wouldn't it be a pretty decent proposition for Endeavor to just flip the switch now that they have OpenBet and offer live betting for the UFC fights proprietary within the UFC Fight Pass app, for example? I think that's quite interesting. Not sure if that's what they're planning or whatnot, but also UFC as a brand. We see that in the UFC, in the US, obviously, with gambling brands that are leveraging the strong local brands in order to reach higher brand equity quicker. BetMGM, for example, one of those examples. Our friend Daniel Gratzner is using Maxim through Carousel Group with MaximBet, and we have FoxBet, and there's a host of different iGaming brands out there that are leveraging already brands that has brand equity. And obviously in the US, the UFC has very strong positioning, especially for the target audience that would consider to place a bet. And so it would seem natural for Endeavor to leverage the brand equity of UFC in order to launch various sports betting services to a large amount of customers. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, it's pretty much what we're seeing. That all these media houses are actually kind of crawling into the sports betting industry as well. We're seeing moves made by DAZN, who are pretty much a content provider powerhouse, starting with the Perform Group offering statistics throughout all the games, then starting their services with DAZN, offering their kind of live coverage, D2C, direct to the consumer. And now they're setting up, first of all, they assigned Shay Segev, who is a pretty much heavyweight in our gaming industry, as their CEO, and he's making all the moves. He kind of headed or recruited the ex-GVC head of B2B, Ian Turnbull, who will now become the head of betting and gaming. And that's pretty much the same that we're seeing. Why would you kind of line up all those heavyweights related to gaming and gambling, running a division, if you're not aiming to actually extend your offerings throughout the gaming industry as well? So Endeavor doing the same with the UFC. And yesterday during the Clubhouse session, we had this kind of nice wording: come for the content and stay for the betting. And this is pretty much, and this will be pretty much what we're seeing. Just think about the NFL, offering specific betting markets to their sports betting partners, and we will just see how that turns out. So if you own a specific division or specific exclusive content with the UFC, IMG, EuroLeague, basketball, etc., these are all things you can actually bet on. And if you're the exclusive provider of this content, you will also be the exclusive provider of sports bet to this content as well. And this is what we often talked about. What might be the next moves for all the sports betting providers and or the media providers? And if you can literally get that exclusivity for these specific content, I'm pretty sure this world would be yours for the taking, right?
Yep, it's a massive paradigm shift taking place on the sports betting side now, as you rightly say, Nico, where it's for the customers, it's not about it's not about placing bets anymore when you enter bet365.com. It's about finding content, engaging with that content through the sportsbook. So you come for the content. This is why you enter DAZN. This is why you enter UFC Fight Pass, and then you are presented with the option to also place a bet. And that is the future, as it seems, with this emerging trend now, with media houses entering the mix.
Yeah, and we still have big media houses, Time Warner, maybe Netflix or Amazon, joining this race as well. You know, we have the licensing process in the US, New York, NYC, just around the corner, and who knows if Amazon, Netflix, if they don't join this race as well, right? They can easily, because their pockets are so deep, they can easily just buy a sports betting operator and then just pitch for the NYC license as well with ease.
Yeah, exactly. That's the paradigm shift we'll see here now. And the likes of Bet365 and these guys will have to be careful now, because they are not media houses, right? And it's maybe that they will be the second tier option for customers who prefer to enter a site where there is more tier one content rather than just entering Bet365, which quoting Tim Heath yesterday in the Clubhouse chat, is just like entering a really advanced Excel sheet, and that is catering only for potentially a niche audience and not the masses. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
What else do we have, Nico?
Yeah, so also US-based, FanDuel, they secured Washington markets access with the cooperation of the Suquamish tribe. So the overall licensing in the US is pretty unique, as first of all, this happens on a state-by-state basis, and you can also get market access by cooperating with the tribe as well. Martin Licker, he's so into how the overall regulation in the US actually works, and hopefully he won't get harsh on us as we're kind of quoting him, right? So in the end, as soon as the overall bet processing happens on tribe premises, right, you're able to offer sports betting on this specific area, which FanDuel actually does. So they are able to enter the market in Washington by offering their sports bet within the premises of the Suquamish tribe. So they run several casinos, and FanDuel will now be open or able to open retail sports books at these facilities. So for sure, quite interesting move. And we see a lot of other operators. In the end, it's pretty much the same names, which we drop on a week-by-week basis, who actually sign up with tribes to offer their sportsbook offerings on these specific locations as well. It's the same in Connecticut. Where also FanDuel signed up with the Mohegan tribe, and the DraftKings signed up with the Meshantucket Pequot as well. And as you can see, either it's Washington, it's Connecticut, wherever, they are always signing up with locally based tribes who are able to offer gaming and gambling on their premises as well. And as said, we will for sure see either further operators signing up with tribes as well, especially, and this is also the next topic, with the NFL already started. So heading over to numbers, the sports betting revenues in Tennessee fell to a record low in August of $10.1 million, which is not that surprising. if you just think about, in July, you still had the NBA finals up and running. And in August, of course, you need to give it a rest a little bit. I would be worried if the September numbers, which we will see flying in pretty much in 2 or 3 weeks, if they would hit a historic low. But I'm pretty sure we will see increasing numbers in every state in the US, especially as a lot of states opened up for sports betting, especially on an emergency kind of licenses being given out, like in Arizona, which was crazy. Yeah, that's the thing. And also in Colorado, we see, but this is on a year-on-year number basis, an increase. Pretty simple. Year on year, last year we had the COVID restrictions, no sports at all in March and April, and of course the year-on-year number will always increase if you just compare them with a historical low, which we've never seen in any kind of area since we are dealing with the gaming and gambling industry overall. So then on the M&A side, M&A has been very, very active last week. Touching down on the Optimove, they raised $75 million by an investment round, which has been led by Summit Partners. So Optimove, as a CRM specialist, they just announced, okay, we gained 75 million in fresh cash. And I'm pretty sure they will use this money, as we have seen for all companies which just gain further money. Just think about PaySafe, etc. They are using this money to extend their footprint in new markets or in existing markets. And Optimove, they already told and committed that they will use, of course, the money for further M&A activities and to update their CRM platform as well. Another topic which we've seen, the Playtech board finally agreed to sell their division of Final to Governor Investments for 250 million. Why would you suddenly agree on a sell, which they have been desperately looking since 2019, and now they obviously sold it for $250 million? I'm pretty sure Playtech is also lining up and filling their pockets to become more active in the M&A space as well. So we see in our overall industry, bigger fish buying smaller fish, and it all depends on how deep your pocket actually are. And if you can gain $250 million in cash to just spend on further M&A activities, this is something we will see for sure within the short period of time. And now one topic, and one topic only: the buying, selling, rebuying, reselling of MGM and Blackstone.
Right.
So we in the end, it's 3 big deals where, first of all, MGM bought premises from Blackstone in the city center. They have announced a purchase of the Infinity World Development Corp, the last 50%, which they still did not own, for $2.12 billion from Blackstone. Now heading over, as Blackstone, they also bought premises from MGM as well, named the Aria and the Vdara properties, also in the city center, for $3.89 billion. And now, last but not least, MGM took over the operations from the Cosmopolitan, also from Blackstone, a deal worth $5.6 billion. It's, in the end, it's not disturbing, but it's quite, it seems to be a little bit crazy if you think about they are buying, selling, rebuying, reselling, leasing the premises. So there's a lot of going on in the city center of Las Vegas. Just think about the beginning of August when, one second, I will just open up this as well. When Vicky, the former Caesars owned property owner, bought premises of MGM in a deal worth $17.2 billion as well. So within the last 2 months, we have seen multi-billion-dollar ownership shifts from well-known premises in the city center of Las Vegas, which also indicates that there's a lot of going on, and there's just money, and big cash settlements, which is just crazy. But this also indicates if the M&A heavyweights of Blackstone selling their premises, rebuying premises, so for sure we will see even further movements in the markets as well. And as I'm pretty sure you're also having an eye on the stock exchange share prices as well. If you can just bring a little bit of light into this as well.
Yeah, interesting, Nico. I mean, I remember being in Vegas for the first time just when City Center opened, and it was actually the last mega project in Las Vegas. It was just around the financial crisis that City Center opened in 2008. It was interesting. I remember they had to open the premises early because they ran out of money. They weren't able to complete the project before they had to open it, so they could generate money to finish the building. So the city center is a collection of these resorts. Essentially, there's Bedara, there's Aria, there's Cosmopolitan, and a host of others. And it seems like they are changing hands now between Blackstone and MGM. And since that project was completed, there has not been any major construction for resorts in Vegas, these mega hotels, until actually just 3-4 months ago when Resorts Las Vegas opened. That's the first major Las Vegas-based project since the city center opened. It's quite interesting. So on the stock exchange, I mean, the news with MGM and Blackstone actually affected both of the companies negatively. MGM has lost about 4% share value this week. Blackstone down 8%. So interesting movements there. Shareholders doesn't seem to appreciate these transactions very much, essentially.
Yeah. So should we head over to the legal part and what has happened within the last week as well?
I think that sounds like an excellent plan, Nico. What's happened on the legal side? Tell us, please.
Yeah, so we've seen numbers being published by GameStop. GameStop is the self-exclusion partner of the UK gambling industry. So as soon as you're licensed in the UK, you have to deal or cooperate with GameStop. So as soon as a player decides to self-exclude him or her from any sports betting activity, you just sign up at GameStop and pretty much decline your further interest in dealing with with sports betting. So as soon as you sign up and just say no, all the UK licensed entities need to block you as well. So just to pick each and every one up, what GameStop actually is. And they report a 25% increase on a year-on-year basis for the H1 numbers of this year. In the end, 25% already sounds pretty big. In numbers, it's 40,000 people who additionally signed up and declined their consent of dealing or having an interest in sports betting. And as of now, the total number of registrants of GameStop, they now add up to 218,000 people, which is just crazy numbers. And of course, this is the downside of our industry as well, that some people obviously can't handle sports betting anymore. And that's why especially those entities as the GameStop in the UK, the Oasis database in Germany as well, are so important that each and every customer actually has a chance to stop when in the end the fun stops. They are able to stop their gaming activities as well. And as soon as you signed up for GameStop or Oasis, you're no longer able to sign up for any licensed entity as well. Of course, there are ways to actually, get around this as well, but then you always end up in the non-licensed world as well. And this just highlights how important these offerings actually are as well. Do you have any comments on this as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's good that the self exclusion tools are becoming more and more prevalent in general, and this is a step for the industry to, let's say, clean up its messy reputation or its stigma. Let's say, I mean, we as an industry and the individuals who work in it, no one wants its customers to fall into addiction, or no one wants their customers to lose their house or whatever it may be. We want our customers to be healthy and obviously grow the industry. So I think the industry at large is very much behind these efforts, obviously to let the customers control their own, or essentially to let the customers stop playing when the fun stops, as you mentioned.
And one more thing, which was quite interesting. I was watching the Champions League match of Manchester United facing Sevilla, I guess, yeah. Right? I was following the broadcast of BT Sports, and now it's getting interesting because Bet365, one of the biggest operators in our industry, they specifically not advertise their services of like, okay, we're the biggest brand, we offer the highest odds, get into the game or whatever. They used a 30 or 45 second advert to actually highlight how their deposit limit actually works. So they were walking a customer through, okay, this is why a deposit limit is important. This is where you find it within the app. See how easy it is to actually set your deposit limit. And that was great because in the end, of course, they can literally, activate a customer or push a customer to spend more. And this is what we're seeing in the industry as well, from the operator side of you, they are using very highly cost adverts to actually, work on their reputation with a deposit limit. And that was quite astonishing. And I was sending messages to my Bet365 guys, actually congratulating then on this kind of advert, because I didn't see that for quite a long time. Betway once had this campaign as well in Germany, but seeing this on a Champions League match in a halftime advert, that was just great. Great.
Yeah. And it's worth noting as well that Bet365 is not a listed company. So sometimes you see a lot of responsible gambling initiatives being done to kind of please the shareholders from ESG perspective. But as Bet365 is a privately owned company with Diane Coates, obviously biggest taxpayer in the UK, by the way. You're very welcome. It's a private company, and so they don't have to think about this decision from ESG perspective. So that comes obviously from them choosing a responsible gambling strategy.
Just staying with Bet365 and heading over to the Netherlands. So Bet365, Tombola, and Holland Casino have been among the first 10 licenses which have been given out by the Dutch regulator Kansspelle Autoriteit.
Yeah, KSA.
Synonym KSA.
Easier.
Yeah, we will just keep it with the KSA. So yesterday we've touched down on that topic as well. And Peter Paul, he introduced the Clubhouse community into the overall regulation market in the Netherlands as well. I'm pretty sure you can walk us to that a little bit more.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's like Nostradamus is upon us in the gaming industry at the moment. Kindred down 20% share price this week. Betsson down 18%. Leo Vegas 9% this week. Incredible what's happening in the Netherlands. So essentially 10 licenses out of 29 applications have been granted. And out of these 10, only Bet365 is essentially the only major international player who have been granted a license. Most of the other licensees are local licenses, and some of them are smaller international ones as well. And so to add insult to injury on what's happening here, the minister that is responsible for gambling did a 180 turn the other day, and basically forbid all the operators that are not yet regulated to offer any games to Netherlands players, basically. And so this means that the likes of Leo Vegas, who were not granted a license, Kindred, Betsson, have now chosen to close shop from one day to the other, and does not accept players from the Netherlands from today, the 1st of October. And these decisions came after the licensee, the first wave of licensees were granted yesterday. So again, Kindred, Betsson, Leo Vegas were not granted licenses, and Betsson and Leo Vegas took quick decision to not allow players from the Netherlands to play on their site. The regulator KSA threatened with increased fines even to unregulated players, essentially where you would pay a fine of 4% of your yearly turnover while breaching these restrictions, essentially while waiting for this cool down period, as the regulator is calling it, where you basically have to, I can't remember exactly how many months it is where you cannot accept players from the Netherlands, but you basically have to exclude players from the Netherlands for a specific time until you can apply for a license in the Netherlands. And Kindred is the interesting story here. Kindred has been most affected by this decision, as we said, down 20% this week. Kindred has a large exposure towards the Netherlands. And what happened now yesterday is that they first announced that they would not close shop to players from the Netherlands. Okay, they would continue to offer the games to Netherlands players, and they basically said, more or less, they said, we will take these fines, we will pay them, and we will continue to offer our games to the Netherlands until we can apply for a license and until we can be granted that license. However, just a couple of hours later, a new press release came out where they retracted this message and essentially closed down shop as well for players from the Netherlands. Now, then you ask yourself, okay, what we say that Kindred has a large exposure to the Netherlands, but what does that mean in actual revenue? Okay, Kindred said themselves in the press release, this will negatively affect the company by 12 million pound per month. 12 million pound euro EBITDA per month, not revenue, EBITDA. Okay, so revenue after expenses, EBITDA. Okay, another question is how much EBITDA does Kindred make per month in its entire group, right? So keep in mind, 12 million is what they are losing from the Netherlands. Kindred is totally making 38 million GBP according to the last quarterly report per month. So in other words, they are losing a third of their total group EBITDA by closing down shop to the Netherlands players for the moment being. And the expectation is that they will be up and running somewhere along the lines of April. But as we all know, Hofbaer's law states that when you wait for something, it always takes longer than what you think, even if you take into consideration Hofbaer's law. Okay, when you renovate your house, you think it's going to take a year, and then you think, oh, maybe the contractor will be a bit late. It'll be a year and a half, and then it ends up being 2 years and a half. Hofbaer's law. And so I would say that the earliest that the Kindred can expect to be regulated is late Q1, let's say early Q2. But who knows? Who knows what the regulator will do? The regulator isn't exactly on the operator side here. And as Peter Paul Detroit himself said, Peter Paul Detroit is the managing director of NOGA, which is the Netherlands Online Gambling Association. So he is the man who's representing the iGaming industry in the Netherlands. He said, gambling doesn't have any friends. It's as simple as that. It's difficult for the gambling industry to get their voice heard. It's difficult for the gambling industry to explain to the politicians that this decision to shut out the reputable operators will only affect the players themselves by jumping ship to more shady operators that do not intend to comply with the regulation. And so you cannot make the argument that this is for the better of the players by basically shutting down the tier 1 operators and leaving the players in there. So it's a very precarious situation in the Netherlands for the players, for the operators, and for the industry at large. This is again sending the message that there are headwinds in Europe. The regulation is getting tighter and tighter, and we see how the stock market reacted to this, where again Kindred dropped 20%, even though this is seemingly a temporary loss of revenue, and they will bounce back come next year. So yeah, crazy things in the Netherlands. Very interesting. It's still developing situations, and we will see how things develop here as we go forward.
Yeah, regulation is always kind of interesting, but releasing a press release like Kindred did with the so we will not pull out of the market, I'm pretty sure that has just been an internal memo, and someone unfortunately kind of released this because Kindred is operating all over Europe. I don't know if they're licensed in Italy or applying for a license in Italy, but in the end, you have very, very, very smart people actually dealing with a topic like this. And in Italy, just in Italy, which is the on a revenue basis, the biggest market we have all over Europe, they are pretty strict with respect to fining operators and allowing operators to actually operate in a market. So they have this transition phase of 2 years, right, where they are like, okay, as of now, only licensed entities are able to actually operate in our country. As soon as you still operate within this 2 years of transition phase, they tick the box. Tick the box means, okay, they will take the time span which you as an operator have operated illegally in this country, in Italy, and they will add this amount of time to when you will be able to operate again in the market, although you already have a license. So you apply for a license, you operated for 1 year illegally in a market, then you will be granted the license, example, by the 1st of January 2022, but they will prevent you from actually using your license as you violated and operated illegally in Italy for this 1 year. So they are pretty strict in how they handle their licensing scheme in Italy. And I'm pretty sure the only one who will gain more customers are the non-licensed entity, as we have seen in Germany as well, driving and thriving revenues to the black market. First of all, the state, they are losing tax revenues, but what is even more worrying is that the players actually need to sign up at a non-licensed entity. And what we have just outlined with GameStop and Oasis, they are not forced to actually, integrate self-exclusion services. They will pretty much force and activate the customer to lose as big as possible. So also from a customer protective scheme, it should be the only way to actually work this out, to actually make a licensing process and a licensing scheme as attractive as possible for the operators to actually sign up for a license and to operate with a license in a specific country.
Absolutely. I would love to be a fly on the wall in Kinder's boardroom yesterday, to be honest with you, how this all went down. Oh my God. It's from a PR perspective, obviously a disaster. I mean, Kindred has always been, they've been very conservative in the sense that, they're very much for operating in regulated markets. They are very much pushing for protecting their players and taking wise decisions. And it was a shock yesterday when this press release came out that they would still remain in the Netherlands, and then obviously retracting that and taking a complete U-turn. I mean, I wonder what happened within the boardrooms yesterday. Like we were saying here, Nico, there was the Amsterdam conference yesterday, and maybe someone woke up a bit hangover after a affiliate party yesterday and took some quick decisions and had to retract.
Yeah, especially if you think about that, the Kindred Group, they have been the first operator ever who released a press release stating our journey towards zero revenue from harmful gambling. So it's not like a typical operator. It's the icon of, we don't want, or we will thrive our own operations to shrink down the revenue from harmful gambling to 0%. So this, in the end, this just doesn't work to release a press release with respect to, okay, so we will still operate, although we're not licensed. Hopefully we can link this to someone being pretty much hangover from the IGB Live and having a very, very decent time in Amsterdam. But I'm pretty sure he or she had a pretty rough day yesterday.
No, you could say so. Yeah, you would assume so. That's how you get rid of your hangover very, very quick.
Yeah, very, very quick.
Great. What else do we have, Nico, on the agenda today? Do we have any other interesting points?
So in the end, we have always quite interesting topics. So last but not least, 888. who put themselves into the spotlight with the acquisition of William Hill. Business analysts putting them to a tier one operator. And as of now, they signed a partnership with Nuvei for the payment solution services which Nuvei just offers, in particular with real-time bank account funding. So of course we have a lot of service providers within the payment solution providing space as well. But Nuvei, they are doing a pretty decent job with, as soon as it comes to real-time bank account funding. Why is this so important? Last week, Sweden just released a press release that they are encouraging or also disallowing operators to use any kind of credit-related deposit methods. Credit-related is also, or how they see credit relations, is a credit card, because a credit card will be booked to your account once a month. So each and everyone offering a credit card payment method are kind of giving a loan to their players. Of course, debit card is a different pairs of shoes, as people need to top up their account in order to being able to use this debit card. But credit card will be booked to your account just once a month. And with this newly partnership, we see that 888 is preparing their overall operations, also being compliant with regulators to actually put down the needle a little bit deeper as soon as it comes to the payment solution operations as well.
Yeah, interesting stuff here, Nico. Again, tighter regulations. Clearly, the Swedish regulator doesn't like credit cards, and potential again to loan yourself into debt by gambling, and you can argue that makes a lot of sense in some sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But,
so Nico, yeah, go ahead.
That's it from this week, just with the
Yes.
hot topics. So we can talk for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yes, we can.
What just happened, and what is about to happen. But this is the wrap up of the hot topics for last week.
Yeah, right. I just have one last thing as well that I find is very, very interesting. I mean, there's been a bit of drama within the Betsson group as well here over the last couple of weeks, where from one day to the other, Pontus Lindvall was let go by the chairman of the board and the wider board members here. To Pontus Lindvall's surprise, he sent an internal email to the employees saying that he was surprised that this happened. He was sad that he had been let go, and it's the company that he loves, and he obviously had deep roots in this company. And he's been heading Betsson AB as the CEO since 2017, after the departure of Ulrik Bengtsson. And at that time, when Ulrik Bengtsson departed, Betsson was in a very wobbly state. It didn't have the best reputation from an employee retention point of view. Revenues were a bit shaky as well. And Pontus came in and managed to turn the ship around. And in the last quarter, Betsson published all-time high results, both in EBITDA and revenue. And so this came as a shock that Pontus had been let go. But it didn't end there, because just a day later, it was announced by the major shareholders that they had not been informed by this decision of the board. This was a decision that the board took on its own. And the major shareholders were upset about this. They had trust and belief in Pontus. And they asked Patrik Svensk, the chairman of the board of Betsson, to leave his position, essentially. And that's what happened. So Patrik Svensk left left his position after 17 years in Betsson. But the story didn't end there. You know, Pontus Lindvall is beloved by his employees in Betsson. Everyone loves Pontus Lindvall. He's a legend of our industry. Well liked, professional. He does well. And just a couple of days ago, another email was sent out to the shareholders of Betsson with some of the major shareholders staging a coup, you could say, announcing an extraordinary general meeting come end of October, where there's a lot of special rules in this meeting. There's a lawyer overseeing the minutes. The chairman of the board doesn't have voting rights, things like this. And where the idea is essentially that they will reinstate Pontus Lindvall into the board of directors now. So Pontus is getting his revenge. He is coming back to Betsson if all goes well in this extraordinary general meeting, and that's where the hashtag was born yesterday. Bring Pontus back.
Yeah. And it's trending.
Urge the industry. Bring Pontus back. Yes.
Yeah, and
all
it's
over
trending,
Twitter.
right?
All over Twitter it is, yes. And he got a lot of support for Pontus, and I'm personally really happy to see Pontus being back. He's a great person, and he has his heart in the right place. So happy to see that Pontus is getting the credit that he deserves, and also he is getting kind of his redemption coming back into Betsson now, if all goes well.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, he stabilized a big ship. Putting things back to normal. People are now proud to actually work at Betsson. Shareholders are very, very happy. He's managed to actually report biggest numbers, or the highest numbers ever being reported from the Betsson group. So why would you then release someone like Pontus out of a sudden? Right? It just smells like there has been a personal fight for whatever reason with the board and Pontus, which we are still not yet aware of. And as you pointed out, shareholders have a specific demand in getting him back. Employees want him back. So I'm pretty sure this story doesn't end here.
No, it definitely doesn't, Nico. What do you say, Nico? Well, shall we shut this off? We go to the beach and have a margarita?
Exactly. Weather's perfect in Munich. We have 8 degrees of Celsius. So I'm happy to jump to the beach. Perfect. So, probably if I'm going to the beach now, we have to skip this for 1 year, as I'm pretty sick and ill. But margarita is always great.
Nico, it's been a pleasure, like always, my friend. I love doing this with you, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay, perfect. We will. Thanks, Pierre, for your time.